I'll cut this part out. Okay, Lincoln. Shh. Trying to record a podcast. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Yeah, just chew on that. Welcome to the Mile High Champions League weekly podcast. I'm your host, The Commission. With me, as always, I have the bold and charismatic Big Nolski. How are you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing well. It's Thursday. It's almost Friday, so that's always a positive. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm good. And for those of you listening out there in podcast land, we have a special guest podcaster tonight for as long as he will be on the podcast. That's right. Lincoln Michael Graziano is our third fantasy expert talking fantasy football tonight. Go ahead and say something. That's right. He doesn't actually speak English yet, but we'll get there. Let's dive right into the podcast. Let's talk about the MVP of the week. Looks like Lincoln Courtney Graziano with 158 beating Molly Josephson, which is awesome, but still not. I'm not used to seeing that. I've seen Molly Graziano my entire life, but Molly Josephson, fantastic. But Courtney beat her 158 to 123.4. That is a big. Oh, no, I lied. I'm sorry. I didn't see Kenfield score 171.7. Sorry, Courtney. Matt Kenfield, you get MVP of the week. Courtney, you get runner-up. Hooray. That doesn't earn you any money, but you do get some moral pride, maybe, question mark. So, Kenfield, congratulations, 171.7. That is big. This is your season, dude. You are doing great. He beats Vanessa 171.7 to 127.4. He is now 5-2 on the series. That is pretty awesome. Not unsurprisingly, he did have the MVP of the week, Ezekiel Elliott. This guy put up 2 touchdowns on 147 yards on 26 carries.
So over a third of Kenfield's points.
Over a third of Kenfield's, exactly. A third of Kenfield's points has come from Zeke. This dude's having a good season. He totally just – the NFL kind of fucked the rest of us this year. They're like, he's not going to play for a third of the season. It's like, just kidding. He's going to play for the entire season. So Kenfield ended up drafting him for, let's see, $26. And he's the 5th back, averaging 32 points per week. So congratulations, Kenfield. That's a hell of a pickup. Congratulations on MVT and MVP. Now let's go to the shithead of the week. Noel, actually, let's skip that for now. Let's talk about fantasy news. I have none. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to check into fantasy. So here's what I'm going to do for you folks. This is really going to be, this will be fun for all of us. I'm going to Google right now the NFL news, and the first story that comes up, Fox News poll, positive views of NFL down 18 points since 2013. There's your news, folks. Let's go on to the next part. Noel, who got injured this week?
Big one would be Carson Palmer, who's out with a broken arm after not only did he get shellacked, but the Cardinals got shellacked and shut out 33-0 against the all of a sudden powerhouse Los Angeles Rams. That's all I really know. Well, I guess Cutler got hurt, but if you're relying on Cutler for your fantasy season, I apologize. Oh yeah, and there's too many of them to name, but basically every offensive player for the outside the backfield, so every wide receiver and tight end for the Ravens is dead. So there's that.
Interesting. I was just watching the game. We are recording on Thursday night, which, by the way, Noel and I are testing a new paradigm. We're just recording on different nights. So instead of being a Tuesday night, Thursday release, let's just say this. We'll record it Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night. Expect a Friday release going forward. I think that's the only fair thing. What do you think, Lincoln?
I think he agrees. You weren't asking me a question, but there you go. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, okay. Lincoln likes that idea, everyone. And of course, as a parent, you do whatever your kid does. So or says. All right, sounds good. Well, thank you for that. You know, I know that's how I felt, Lincoln. I never like to bitch about my own team that often, but I was the other recipient of Carson Palmer's shitty week because earmuffs, Lincoln. Shitty week because yeah, he got me a solid 4 points and went out pretty early. So I don't think he's going to be back till like the Colorado Bowl. So he's pretty much a done deal for the season. So
they should just stop doing the London games. They're always bad, and bad things always happen. Just stop doing them.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like they're trying to get the European crowd involved. It's like they have a sport and it's called soccer and it's not that great, but they love it. So who are we to judge? Anyways, let's go on to the shithead of the week. Noel, you got anybody this week?
I don't. Maybe after we're done here, I'll just like think up some finalists. We can do a poll again because I've been pretty busy this week, so that and I still have time to like troll the internet for stuff, and there hasn't been a whole lot of like solid shitheads that are deserving of it where I can give an explanation that's long and is good. So what I can think of on top of my head is again Marshawn Lynch off what he did last week. Martavis Bryant, for those of you that are keeping up, he's very unhappy, so he just called in sick to a meeting on Monday, which is always good. Vontae's perfect for trying to kick an opponent. And I'm going to go with also Marvin Lewis because I don't know what the hell they were doing when they were playing Pittsburgh last week, but they were keeping it close and they were running the ball very effectively. Then they just stopped and they lost by a fair amount. So let's go with those for the finalists, and you guys can vote.
That's right. You vote. So recap that, Noel. You had Marvin Lewis,
Marshawn Lynch, Martavis Bryant, and Vontae's perfect. That's right. 2 Bengals to choose from.
That's surprising. Marshawn Lynch and perfect. Okay, that sounds perfect. Okay. The champion of this week, I'm actually nominating all of you people out there in fantasy land. And I know you wanted it to be you, Lincoln, but it's not going to be you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Wilson.
It's Voight.
I say this because we're halfway through the season. We're more than halfway through the season, and it's just been a lot of fun so far. This has been a really fun season, as most of them are. But doing this podcast with a child, of course, is not easy. But Noel and I still have a lot of fun doing it. So it's fun. He's a squirmy worm right now, just sitting on my lap. But I very much enjoy doing this podcast for you all, and I hope you get something out of it. And so I know Noel does as well. And so I just want to nominate you all for Champions of the Week because without you, there is no Mile High Champions League. So thank you to you all for being so awesome. Now let's go on to the recap of the week. Let's start off the week here. This was a pretty high-scoring week in general, but let's start off with the first game. Noel, take it away.
All right. Well, obviously this was Kentfield's game by far, beating the I'd say hit or miss HR Buffaloes with Vanessa at the helm because I think she's got a good team, but she's had like the first week where she just got screwed. So there's some talent here, but this week she was on the opposite end of a resurgent, not opposite end, but didn't benefit from a resurgent Oakland defense or Oakland offense, I should say. So she had Crabtree who scored 11 points. But nothing like what Amari Cooper scored this week. And from there, she had some players that should have carried her. I mean, you get 16 points from your defense, 14 points from your kicker, 15 points from flex spot isn't bad, 24 points from your starting running back, which that is severely disappointing for Kareem Hunt. That's got to be the low on the year for him by far. He didn't hit 100 yards. But Jameis Winston's starting to come around and got 34.4 points. But you just look at Kenfield's team, and he only had 2 players who scored single digits, one of them being a kicker. Yeah, hooray. So, but the other one being Demaryius Thomas, who as Broncos fans, that's disheartening. But, I mean, Tom Brady, solid week. Ezekiel Elliott, insane week, 62 points. Antonio Brown, kind of quiet week, 16 points. But Witten, bounced back, 15. Latavius Murray, after making Brandon want to pull his hair out, all of a sudden had a huge week, 32 points, and 20.5 points out of his defense. So, as you said, this is Kenfield's year, and the Elliott thing, I don't know if it's ever going to be resolved, and if it is, it might not be resolved until the Colorado Bowl. So, good risk there to take there by Kenfield, and it's okay. Great win for him. Not a bad loss for Vanessa, but I think there's stuff to look forward to because Kareem Hunt will not be denied going forward. This might be one of his lowest games of the year, if not the lowest.
I had to think so. I mean, 24 points out of a dude that's been putting up 36 just seems low. Last week was bad too at 17, but meh. That's what happens. All right, thanks, Noel. Let's go on to your game. You played Rednecks Delight, and you killed them. 143-2 to 106-5. Charlie had a pretty good week by some of his players. LaShawn McCoy, who had a great tweet about Donald Trump. I would just encourage you to go Google that. Tyrod, he had 36 points, I should say. Tyrod Taylor, 29. Jordy Nelson, without Aaron Rodgers there, is a flex play at this point. He only got 2 points. Jared Cook, still great, 18 points there. He's a top 10 tight end. Frank Gore, it seems to be coming back down to earth a little bit, only 6 points. Jeremy Maclin, surprisingly, 0 points, or not surprisingly.
He got hurt.
Packers D, despite Noel's sage advice from the beginning of the season, he's still starting them, and they got a whopping 9.5 points. But don't worry about it, Charlie. In the grand scheme of things, the Packers defense overall is 22nd. Charlie, pull them out. Why are you starting them? There's only 12 teams. That means there are 10 better options. Oh, for the love of God. So, anyways, he played them, and they only got him 9.5 points. Mason Crosby, 6 points. Hooray. So that got him 106. Noel, you had a good week, and that was on the back of Aaron Jones, Green Bay's running back. I think in the absence of Aaron Rodgers, you're going to need to rely on your other star players like Aaron Jones. So he did very well, 41 points. That's really good. That is a potential candidate for MVP. 131 yards and a touchdown. That's really darn good. Cam Newton, 16.2, seems to be kind of coming back down to earth after 3 great weeks, which, by the way, just because I mispronounced Earth there, I need to point out something. In Independence Day, Will Smith, when he meets the aliens, everyone for the longest time, kind of a little bit racist, thought he said, "Welcome to Earth," but he doesn't. If you listen to the movie, he actually pronounced it properly and articulates Earth. Unlike I did just now, he says, "Welcome to Earth," and that alien was not welcome. That's why I punched him in the face. Anyways, Cam Newton, 16.2. Joe Mixon, 14 points. That's not too bad. Larry Fitzgerald, I think because of Carson Palmer going out, had his tied for worst week of the season at 5 points. But fortunately, Aaron Jones made up for that here. 1 and 5 between the two. That's averaging 23. That's not too shabby. Delaney Walker, kind of a slow week for him with 11 points, probably because he's questionable. Maybe been nursing an injury at the time. Doug Baldwin, great week, 24 points for him. It's actually second best week of the season. Way to go, Doug. Rams defense, that was a great play this week. They're number 2 overall. I mean, I think they would have done well against the Cardinals anyways, just because the Cardinals aren't that great of an offense. But, I mean, shutting them out and taking out Carson Palmer, not to mention getting 2 interceptions there, it's certainly going to help them out. So 29 points from the Rams. And then your kicker, 3 points. Yay. So congratulations, Noel. You are tied for 3rd in the Pacific Conference. It's on your second game. Your second game in a week, in 2 weeks. Jesus Christ. So you're on a 2-game winning streak is what I'm going for there. Holy hell. So that's pretty good. So you're now actually tied, or no, excuse me, you're 3rd place in the Pacific Conference. Kent Field's 5-2, Vanessa 4-3, you're 3-4. Poor Chuck 2 and 5. We're now getting into the playoff time of the year where you start to really solidify the picture here. So it's going to be hard for me to envision Chuck coming back from a 2-5 record, but I don't like to be that negative. So keep cheering, Chuck. We'll keep rooting for you. So that is your game. Let's move on to the next one. Oh God, go on to my game.
So you had the unfortunate task of taking on the, again, undefeated, got AJ Green Lantern owned by Josh. And as we predicted, and I think almost everybody thought, you lost. And it wasn't necessarily a blowout, but it wasn't necessarily close. However, there's some kind of the scores for Josh are kind of up and down here. So Dak Prescott, big day, 41.2 points. Todd Gurley just having a bounce back season, 39 points. AJ Green doing what AJ Green does recently with 7 points. Austin Hooper, who is the boomer bust tight end of the year, with 1 point. Mark Ingram, solid play this year. Actually, the past couple of years, really. 35 points. Tevin Coleman, who's just having a problem staying on the field this year, 3 points. And I only bring this up because it's always funny when this happens. His kicker, Matt Bryant, got him a whole -1 point because he missed both field goal attempts and made an extra point. So that's always fun. Also, both of those field goal attempts were from inside the 40 or within 40 yards, which is why he lost points. Panthers defense, very, very good with 22.5 points in a loss to the Bears. But the Bears right now they're not the 85 Bears, but their offense is pretty shitty. So they're hoping the defense is better than shitty offense. So it was like a baseball blowout game there. And then for you, Mike, just as you said, from pretty early on standpoint, you were kind of screwed with 4 points and Carson Palmer breaking his arm. Jordan Howard had a down game for him, 13 points. Jarvis Landry had the game you were kind of finally hoping for. I think he's had a couple of them now. 23 points. Great. Another good week. Great week, actually, from your tight end. 18 points for Evan Ingram. Melvin Gordon. Did he get hurt in that game?
I think he went out because he was questionable going into it with a foot injury. And I think when they got up ahead, they just like, well, let's not break our star player.
Good for them because he is their offense. So 8 points. That's an outlier for him. Chris Thompson, 21 points. He's had a great year so far. Will Lutz, and kind of actually a down week for him with 8 points. And the Saints defense, who went up against someone named Brett Hundley. It is Brett Hundley, who had fewer than 10 completions on the game. That had you 16.5 points. So not a bad week all around for you, Mike. Just, bad luck with Carson Palmer, and then same thing with Melvin Gordon. You probably could have overcome that had those not happened. And while Josh is a powerhouse here, I think he'd probably be hoping for fewer of his players getting single digits and no negatives going forward. But if you're undefeated, you take it any way you can get it. So congratulations, Josh. And again, way to just barnstorm this league and take us all for suckers.
Yeah, seriously. Congratulations. 7-0. We are actually, let me check something real quick here. We are coming up on what I believe is the longest undefeated streak, which was set by Brandon in 2008. So we're coming up on a 10-year record. He might actually potentially tie or beat this. In 2008, Brandon started the season 8-0 before finally losing his first game, and obviously went on. I believe he went on to win the championship that year. But this is interesting. This is going to be fun to watch what happens with Josh this week. He's actually in record-setting territory, so keep your eyes peeled on that one. He's pretty good. Let's go to the next game. Nick versus Brandon. Unlike his 2008 season, Brandon's season this year has not been that hot. He's lost his second in a row after winning one game and losing his other games. So he's only won one game through 7 weeks. I hate to say it, but I don't know if Brandon's going to go to the playoffs this year. At 1-6, it's very hard to envision that, and it's very hard to envision that is Brandon at the helm there, because this is a guy who is arguably the best Mile High champion in history. He's won more championships. He's won more games in total. He's just phenomenal, except for this year. And I don't really have a good reason why. I like his team. It's just one of those fluke things. So let's look at his team first. Matt Ryan, 25.6 points. That's pretty good. Marshawn Lynch, had he not been an idiot, ran on the field and pushed a referee, might have gotten more points. Maybe not enough to beat Nick this week, but 1 point from a guy like Marshawn is not enough to win you a game. Mohamed Sanu in the wide receiver position. I think he did that because DeAndre Hopkins was off, and he maybe didn't want to start Emmanuel Sanders, who is questionable this week. Got him 12 points. It's okay, but not great for your starting wide receiver. Jimmy Graham, though, not too bad. 14 points. That's pretty good for for a tight end. It's not too shabby. Jerick McKinnon, 13 points. That's a little bit below average what he's been doing this season, especially with Dalvin Cook out. The 2 prior weeks were 47 and 31, so 13 is certainly a huge drop off there. Adrian Peterson came back screeching halt from the earlier in this season when he was just unbelievable last week with 42 points. This week he only put up 6. 11 attempts, 21 yards. They just had his number. The Los Angeles Rams did. So, again, Noel's right. Where the hell did the Rams come from? But they're clearly a force to be reckoned with this year. Jaguars D, boy, you wouldn't expect anything Jaguars to be good, but the number 1 defense is the Jaguars. They put up 30 points this week after shutting out the Indianapolis Colts, the dreadful Indianapolis Colts. And then one of his star players, in fact, the 3rd highest scoring player on his team, Greg the Leg Zuerlein, his kicker, 17 points, proving yet still that he is the number 1 kicker in Mile High Champions League, for whatever that's worth. Let's go to Nick's team. Let's see how he won. Carson won 46 points. That's probably the biggest reason. C.J. Anderson only got 10 points. It was just not the Broncos' week this week. They looked shitty all around. Tyreek Hill, 31 points. That's the other reason why he did so well. Tyreek seems to be back in good form. It's kind of funny. He is hit or miss. Here's his weeks through 7 weeks. 32, hit. 9, miss. 21, hit. 8, miss. 23, hit. 11, miss. And then 31, hit. So he's been pretty much hot or cold all. So whoever's playing Nick this next week, good for you, because Tyreek Hill might have another miss. Travis Kelce, 13 points. That's pretty good. Dez Bryant, 19. He's not too bad. That's his best game of the year. He hasn't been great this year, but he's coming back with that. Good week this week. And then Chris Ivory, 13 points. Not too shabby. Ravens defense, 8.5. That is not good. It is actually their 2nd worst game of the year after they got -1 playing Jacksonville after allowing 44 points. Good old Blake Bortles put up 44 points on the Baltimore defense. So 8.5 this week, though. And then Robbie Gould, 5 points. So congratulations, Nick. This is a win number 1 after losing last week, a 2-game losing streak for the Littleton Spartans, unfortunately. Nick is now tied for 2nd in the Atlantic Conference with Kings of the North. Got AJ Green Lantern is far and away 7-0. He is leading that conference. The remaining 3 behind him, Ben, Nick, Molly, are all 3-4. Brandon, unfortunately, is not only the bottom of the Mountain Conference at 1-6, but bottom of the Mile High Champions League, unfortunately, at this point. So chin up, Brandon. There's always next year. Let's go on to the next game.
So quick update here. I was looking at the game where the Ravens just scored and going, wait, why is Ryan Mallett throwing a touchdown pass? And a quick or cursory search on Twitter reveals that apparently Joey Falco got just absolutely laid out by Kiko Alonso in a hit that the Twitter sphere is saying should have seen him be ejected. So despite the fact that Baltimore is currently up 20-0, Joe Flacco might be done because they're saying he got knocked out. So, yeah, a little bit scary there. But that being said, on to Courtney's solid victory over Molly here. And this wasn't a bad week by either team, obviously. And ascends Courtney to 5-2, which keeps her 1st in the Mountain Conference. And she just, sort of like Josh here, had just some outstanding performances. Alex Smith, I mean, was not drafted by anybody. 41 points. Picked up off of waivers. 48 points from Mari Cooper, who just seems to remember that he's playing football again. 15 points from her kicker. Again, just huge. Vikings defense, which, of course, that was going to be a solid start against Baltimore last week. So that was more than enough to overcome 5 points from Derrick Henry, 9 points from Jermaine Kearse, of paltry 8 points from Rob Gronkowski, and 13 points from Christian McCaffrey, which isn't bad, but he's essentially, I have these guys in my roster right now where he's really only useful from a PPR standpoint. He ran the ball 7 times for 10 yards in the last game. And because, in case you haven't noticed, I don't like the Panthers offensive coordinator, Mike Shula. He's just kind of a pud. He's not using Christian McCaffrey correctly, he keeps trying to have him run with the shotgun, which he doesn't really do. So, yeah, huge win for Courtney. For Molly here, it was just kind of just solid, kind of all around, just disappointing. Amendola, I don't know if he got hurt or just was shut down, but 4 points in that fairly big win over Atlanta the Patriots had. 5 points from Larry Blunt, who I think is a lower hit or miss kind of guy compared to Tyreek Hill, where unless he gets a touchdown, he's just not going to do much for you. So 5 points. 11 points from your kickers, good. 19 from your defense, good, which always smart to play the defense that is playing against the Browns. So I think there's a lot to like. You know, Molly should keep being competitive going forward. And I hate to say it, but I think Courtney is – I hate to say that she's quietly doing it, but I think Courtney will keep sneaking her way past people. Not sneaking, but keep somehow blowing past people without really realizing that she's killing us all.
Surreptitiously slapping, if that's a thing, as she walks by. She's like, my place. That's my win. Thank you, Noel. I appreciate your comments there. Let me take a step back on one thing here. When I said the news of the week was something I just Googled, it was. And then when I went back to Google it to find the story to post on our website, it was gone. So I just Googled something else, and it's even more funny. The headline from the New York Daily News is NFL Week 8 Bettor's Guide. Jets playoff dreams will officially die after loss to Falcons. That is now my news of the week. So I'm posting that on the main page. And enjoy. Let's go on to the last.
That just seems mean.
Review. It does seem mean. And it's the New York Daily News. Like, hey, our teams suck so much. I'm surprised I'm not picking on the Giants more, but Hank Gola is the writer. He just wrote this like 20 minutes ago. We're recording this Thursday night during the game, as Noel just mentioned. Good old Ryan Mallett. He's throwing footballs for Baltimore now, apparently. Anyways, let's go. Last game, Kings of the North, Parker Rams. Let's see what happened here. Close game by these two CSU alum. Ben pulled out the win, though, 145-5 to Larson's 137. Good week overall by both. I don't see anything on either of these teams that I dislike. It was a good game. Both of them should be proud, despite the fact Ben pulled off a victory. Larson, this was a good week for you. 137 is normally weak. You'll be very competitive and typically beat folks, but unfortunately, Ben had the upper hand, just like John Doe. Phillip Rivers for Ben, 21 points. That's not too bad. That's a 7 reference for those of you who hadn't seen that movie. I can't say go out and see it now because it's a little dark. Got to be in the mood, but it's good. It'll also answer the question, what's in the box?
Of course.
Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers got him 21 points. That's pretty average for Phillip, King Marmalade himself. Le'Veon Bell, I mean, this dude is just unbelievable. He's probably going to end up number 1 running back, even despite Ezekiel Elliott, just because he's that freaking good. 38 points. Mike Evans finally coming on strong. 21 points for him this week. It's been a little bit slow. He's good still, don't get me wrong, but it's been a little bit slow for what I would expect for somebody like Mike Evans. Austin Seferian-Jenkins of the eponymous Jets we were just talking about, he got 11 points. That's not too shabby. Carlos Hyde, 19. It's kind of hard to cheer for anybody on the San Francisco 49ers, but believe it or not, Carlos Hyde is the 8th ranked running back through 7 weeks, so he's actually been pretty good this week, probably because he's the only person of note in San Francisco. Mike Gillespie? He got 6 points. Julia Guglia. He got him 6 points, which is not unsurprising because considering his track record is pretty shitty. You look there, it's kind of like a weird roller coaster, the one that you start at the top and then you just go down and there's like a little dip back up and then you crash back down again. So, Ben, don't start him for the love of God. Why did you start him? Steelers, 19.5 points against Cincy. That was a good call because Cincy can either blow you up or do something like this, get you 19.5 points for the opposing defense. So, good call on them. And then Josh Lambo, 10 points for the kicker. That's not too shabby either. Kirk Cousins, with a K, got 36 points this week for Larson looking at his team now. He's been pretty good this year. And if you click on his picture, that is one happy-looking boy right there. He's got a great smile, and those are some ridiculously white teeth. Devonta Freeman, and it's actually distracted me from that photo of that Ram lion. up top. Devonta Freeman, 18 points. Not too bad for him this week. It's a little bit low for what Devonta Freeman you'd expect from him, but not bad. Michael Thomas, 15 points. That's pretty good for him. It's about average. Zach Ertz, boy, this guy is just unbelievable this year. He's probably going to outpace Gronk for best tight end of the 2017 season. He's gotten double-digit points every week, which for a tight end is pretty good because most tight ends drift between like 18 to 12 points. That's really all you can really expect from them. So he's been averaging 16. So it's really been a good acquisition picking up Zach Ertz this year. And he didn't bet the farm either. He only paid $4 for him. So nice job, Larson. Doug Martin, 14 points. That's pretty good. I mean, Doug Martin, he's got the power. He's got the physicality. He's just not there yet. I don't think he's just not what he was years ago. Adam Thielen of Minnesota, I think with Dalvin Cook out, you can make an argument that any weapon on the Vikings offense should get some production, but unfortunately it's not exactly the case. He's still doing well. He is the 12th ranked wide receiver overall, so you would expect to want to play him every week. It's just he's averaging 13 points, so it's not. Dolphins, 13 points, and then Jake Elliott, 13 points. So good week by Larson. 137, just unfortunately not enough to pull off the victory. So congratulations, Ben. You are tied for second in the Atlantic Conference, as we were talking about, 3 and 4. Larson slides to 2 and 5 in the Mountain Conference. Not out of the game yet because the Mountain Conference is only a 3-game difference between he and the leader, the Legend of Lincoln. So really the only runaway conference right now at this point is the Atlantic Conference with 4 games, but we still have a handful of more than that left. So we still have the opportunity for anyone to still win the conference. Let's go on to the previews of this week. And to preview this week, the starter, of course, is the Legend of Lincoln versus the Littleton Spartans. So we have an intra-conference Mountain Conference play right now. Thursday night football, Brandon is ahead by 11 points. He's got Justin Tucker, Baltimore kicker. We're heading into halftime, and he's got him a nice juicy 11 points. So that's a great start for him. Looking at everything else, let's go position by position here. Alex Smith versus Matt Ryan. Both of those guys good. Both of those guys kind of game manager types. I like Matt Ryan more. I think Matt Ryan will have a better week this week because he's going against a kind of Swiss cheese-like secondary at the New York Jets versus Denver's defense, as we all know, is a lot more stout. Now, what will keep this competitive is Alex Smith is the #1 quarterback through 7 weeks versus 24 for Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's been averaging 21 points. Alex Smith, 33. So this is a tough one. I'm not going to make a call here. I like Matt Ryan more as a player, but I think Alex Smith right now, this has just been one of those phenomenal seasons. Like Kenfield has been having a phenomenal season, just kind of off to the races. I think Alex Smith is in that same boat, and I don't like to get in front of momentum players because they typically, every time I say, well, now they're going to fall back to earth, they typically just tend to skyrocket higher. So I think this is too close to call. I think quarterback slots, we're just going to keep that an even 50-50. Let's go on to Christian McCaffrey versus Jerick McKinnon. Boy, these are 2 great runners. I really like both of them. I think that, well, that's tough. Jerick McKinnon they're very close too in points. McKinnon's the 13th best overall. McCaffrey 14. McKinnon's averaging 18.6. McCaffrey 17.4. However, this week McKinnon's going against, believe it or not, the 4th ranked best Cleveland Browns run defense versus Christian McCaffrey going against the paltry 18th Tampa Bay run defense. So I think McCaffrey's got the edge up this week. Amari Cooper versus Keenan Allen. As you said, Noel, Amari Cooper seems to remember that he's actually a receiver in the National Football League and needs to catch balls for a living. And so he's starting to come back. And now that his good buddy Derek Carr is back, I think that he will have a good week, better week. Maybe not as stellar as he did last week. However, given the consistency of Keenan Allen, I'm going to have to go with Keenan Allen on this one. I think that Amari Cooper is good, but Keenan Allen has a higher probability of putting up points, whereas Amari Cooper, he's only actually hit double digits twice this season. In week 1 and 17 points, and last week with 48. The other remaining weeks, 7, 1, 2, 1, and 7. He actually has a palindrome of scores there. So that's cute, but that's not really great for fantasy. So I'm going to have to give it to Keenan Allen. Gronk versus Graham. Gronk is healthy. Graham is as well, but it's Rob Gronkowski. even though he's going up against the number 2 Chargers defense against tight ends, it's Rob Gronkowski. He is just special, like Megatron, like that big Julio Jones type player. They're just special. So even though he's going against a tougher defense, I'm going to have to go with Gronk here. Duke Johnson versus DeAndre Hopkins. Now that he's got DeAndre Hopkins back, he's starting him, which I think anybody would expect him to, considering he's the 4th best wide receiver. Duke Johnson, though, is only 3 points behind average per week. So Courtney's starting Duke in the absence of Leonard Fournette and Derrick Henry. Kind of sucks because those are her stars. So this might actually be Brandon's week for a win number 2. I think I have to obviously give that to DeAndre Hopkins. Mohamed Sanu for Brandon versus Stephon Diggs. Courtney, I like Stephon Diggs. I don't like Mohamed Sanu. A lot of point differences there. Defensive matchups are kind of out the window here. I'm just looking at the players. Stephon Diggs is better. He's going against Cleveland. Mohamed Sanu is good, but there are so many other weapons on Atlanta that Matt Ryan can completely ignore him. Going with Stephon Diggs. Vikings D versus Cleveland, which is always what you want to play. Whoever's playing Cleveland, just start that defense. And then Eagles going against San Francisco. I have to go Vikings here. And then Kai Forbath versus Justin Tucker. Just given the fact that Justin Tucker has 11 points, I'll go with Justin Tucker. Looking at everything here, I think that Brandon has the chance for upside here, but Courtney has the better probability of winning. I'm throwing my hat in for Courtney this week. Let's go to the next game, Noel. It's me versus the Lion Buttfuckers.
Dear Lord. Yes, this is it's terrifying, Larson. Where did you find this? This shouldn't be on the internet.
What do you Google for that? Like, ram sodomy, but tasteful ram sodomy.
With a lion, that's a thing.
And so steroids.
Right now, Mike, you've got yourself 1 point from Jarvis Landry so far, but you never know. Being down 20-0, that could be some garbage time points for him. But let's break it down because right now projection is Larson has the upper hand with 139.1 points. The year projected 122. And by position, I actually, and I guess I'll get to this at the end. There's a lot of stuff to like for both of your teams here. And I think there's a lot of stuff where you're like, man, this is kind of close because he is starting Kurt Cousins. Sorry, my accent makes it sound like it's Kurt instead of Kirk because like Bruce Allen was born in California. So that's, we all know California accents sound like Kurt instead of Kirk. Anyways, versus Josh McCown. And really, I think this is going to be kind of negligible because I think both quarterbacks are probably going to have similar stats. I think Kirk will have the slight edge, but I think McCown will also just kind of have an average day. He's probably going to throw a couple picks, but he's also going to have to probably play from behind, which means what everyone loves in fantasy points, garbage points. Then the running back, this one I think I'm going to give the edge to Devontae Freeman over your Jordan Howard here, Mike, just because I think Howard will get his points, but Freeman, there's a lot of upside because he will get more touches, he'll get passes out of the backfield, and he's just a much more explosive runner. So that's kind of one of these things where I could see Devontae Freeman getting less points than Jordan Howard, but I think the upside is much higher. So that's why I go there. And then even with your 1 point from Jarvis Landry so far, Larson is starting Michael Thomas, which for any of you who've started a wide receiver for the Saints, it'll drive you nuts because they'll get 2 touchdowns 1 week and then disappear for the rest of the season. So who the hell knows? I think even with the 1 point, I'm tempted to give it to Jarvis Landry, quite honestly. Tight end, I like Zach Miller for you there, Mike, but I like Zach Ertz a lot more. So Zach Ertz upside there. Then this is, I think, the big kind of breaking point here is if Melvin Gordon's good to go and gets his full amount of touches, I think you got to favor him over Doug Martin. Same, not same with Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson I like over Deion Lewis. And another wrinkle to this is the fact that Chris Thompson makes a lot of his points for you off of PPR. So the fact that you're starting him while Larson is starting Kirk Cousins means that you might sap some points away from him, even if Cousins does well. So that's always a good strategy to use. The defensive matchups here are fantastic with Your Saints defense, Mike, going up against the Chicago Bears offense, which doesn't really score on anything other than trick plays. I don't think Mitchell Trubisky even has a touchdown pass so far this season, but their punter does, or something like that. It's something weird. Bengals defense against Indianapolis is terrible, just all around team, but terrible offense. And then kickers, I like. I'm actually going to give the slight edge to Jake Elliott here, just because I think that Philadelphia will go hog wild against the 49ers. But I think that'll be close between both your kickers here. So I'm actually going to be weird here, and I'm going to call this one an upset for you, Michael, because I just think that there's enough that can go right for you that will. I think your team will be more solid. And I think a lot of stuff has to go right for Larson to get that projected points. I don't think Lewis will get that. I'm not sure Freeman will either. And who knows what Thomas is going to do. So, yeah, that's my, right now, my upset pick of the week. And I'm not just saying that because I'm scared of the picture that I'm looking at here.
Everyone is scared of the picture. Oh my God. I just realized his arm is 2 different colors too. Is he wearing gloves? I'm so confused.
He's wearing welding gloves.
And gauntlets. They're aren't legal. I guess a ram isn't legal to play in football anyway. But all right, let's go on to the next one. Vanessa versus Josh. Is this the week? Is this the week that Josh is going to lose? Probably not. And here's why. Vanessa is already starting the week with Jay Ajayi at 4 points. Now, it is only halftime as of this recording. And Jay Ajayi, decent points, 17.5. You're not going to do that well if one of your players is already getting you single digits. So let's look at the rest. Jameis Winston versus Dak Prescott. I don't really think that's much of a competition. Dak is clearly better, and he's going against a weaker defense, Dak Prescott. Kareem Hunt versus Mark Ingram. As Noel said, Mark Ingram's been having a great last couple of years. He's going against a pretty okay defense, Chicago 17th overall. Kareem's going against Denver's #1 run defense. However, I like Kareem Hunt more. I'm going to throw my hat for Kareem Hunt. Michael Crabtree versus A.J. Green. Typically, I'm not a big A.J. Green fan, but he's been phenomenal this year, #4 overall. He's going against a bad Indianapolis defense, so I'm going to go with A.J. Green here. Kyle Rudolph, Jordan Reed. I like both of these guys a lot. I think they're both really good. It's really hard to say. Jordan Reed had a great week last week, 26 points. That's good for a wide receiver, let alone a tight end. Problem with Jordan Reed is he is made of glass. He gets hurt more than Gronk does, and Gronk gets hurt a lot. So I'm going to have to go with Kyle Rudolph here. I just think Kyle Rudolph is better and more consistent in his ability to put up points. Jordan Reed will get you those big weeks like last week where he puts up 26 points, but then he'll just fart around and do nothing. Look at Kyle Rudolph. He's a little bit more consistent there. Jay Ajayi versus Brandon Cooks. I like Jay Ajayi, and let's fucking – I don't think he's going to do well this week because as of halftime, it's 0-20. So Miami's going to have to throw the ball, and that means good old Matt Moore is going to have to throw the ball. So it might be good for the other players on the Dolphins, the wide receivers and such, but it's not going to be so good for Jay Ajayi. So I think I have to give it to Brandon Cooks here. Tyler Kroft, Vanessa.
Oh, yeah. Eifert is out for the rest of the season. Sorry, I didn't mention that.
Okay. That doesn't explain why she's starting a tight end in a flex position, though. That's suicide. Okay, I need to look at her bench real quick. So on her bench, she's got an empty bench slot. Then Andy Dalton and Derek Carr and Ed Dixon. So she's hoarding quarterbacks and tight ends and nothing. So I think it would be in her best interest to fill up that bench slot, fill it with Tyler Kroft if she really wants to keep him, and then start another player. Because here's the thing. Tyler Kroft has been averaging 8 points. If it was possible, you'd have a higher probability of scoring more points with the kicker. And I never would advocate starting more than one kicker. So the other person that she's playing against is Tevin Coleman on the flex slot there. So obviously I'm giving that to Tevin Coleman. Panthers D versus Tampa Bay and Broncos D versus Kansas City on Vanessa's side. I like the Panthers D a lot, but Tampa Bay's got a better offense, I think. Now, let me take that back. I think Kansas City has a better offense this year. I think Kansas City's actually doing phenomenal by Kansas City standards, by NFL standards this year. So the Broncos have their work cut out for them, especially with the way they've been looking. So I have to give this one to the Panthers too, and then kickers. So I think that looking at everything here, with the consistency that Josh has been putting up, with everything that's been going on, I have to think Josh is going to tie that record. He's going to go 8-0 so far this year. You look at overall, besides Courtney actually has the most points through 7 weeks. She's got 124. Josh has 122.9. So just a measly 1.1 points behind her. But if you do the math, Josh is averaging 146 points per week. That is clearly enough to win any given week. So this is Josh's week to lose. I really don't see Vanessa winning this one, barring some sort of ridiculous game by Kareem Hunt and Michael Crabtree. I don't see Tyler Croft going off or anything like that. This is really Josh's game to lose. So I think Josh is going 8-0 this week. Let's go to the next one. Kenfield versus Nick Vale.
So the projection has Kenfield winning this one 146.8 points to 130.2 points. And I have no reason to believe that will not be the case, because as it stands right now, Alex Collins, who Kenfield wisely picked up off of waivers at some point, already has 17 points at the half, and he's really looked like the only solid offensive player for the Ravens this game. And Nick is getting 22 points out of the Ravens defense right now, but that can change as the game goes along. And unfortunately, when your offense has that many points and the spread's that big to start the half, you're probably going to have your defense playing a little soft. So that could be rough. But let's go position by position here. Big check mark again, Carson Wentz over Tom Brady. Tom Brady is having a good season, not a great season, but Carson Wentz is playing like an MVP, and he's going against a bad San Francisco defense. And Tom Brady's going against a underrated LA Chargers defense. So, yeah, check Carson Wentz. And then huge check to Ezekiel Elliott going against the Skins defense, as where Nick is starting Wendell Smallwood, the backup running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, who occasionally touches the ball. So that might be problematic for Nick. Antonio Brown for Kenfield versus Tyreek Hill. As you said, Mike, that's consistency versus hit or miss. I think you have to give the check mark to Antonio Brown. Jason Witten for Kenfield versus Travis Kelce for Nick. Yeah, who the heck knows? That's two very good options, but I think the upside, I'm going to go with Kelce over Witten just because the upside there. Then another one where two players that have kind of been down so far this season, and in Des Bryant's case for the past few seasons. So Kenfield has Demaryius Thomas against Nick Des Bryant. I'm going to give the slight edge to Des Bryant just because Casey's defense is better than the Skins defense. Alex Collins actually now has 19 points as the third quarter starts, going against Chris Hogan, who has been sort of hit or miss this season. So I think you have to give obviously to Alex Collins there just because it's already there. Chiefs defense against Ravens defense, who's still, they got some return yards to 23 points now. As of now, I'd go with the Ravens, but I think Chiefs might cause our beloved Denver Broncos some problems. Adam Vinatieri, that's I guess the lone thing on Kenfield's roster. I'm going maybe change that up, because I think KC's kicker Harrison, is that Butlicker? Butker?
Butlicker. Our prices have never been lower.
Anyways, I think he's a much better option than the ageless wonder Adam Vinatieri. So that being said, I like Kenfield this week to increase to an astonishing 6-2 and keep his grasp on the Pacific Conference. And but Nick drafted well. I think he's just been kind of like a few of the rest of us been nipped by the injury bug so far. But I think I'm going to go with Kenfield this week.
I agree. Let's go on to your game versus Molly
God.
here. You both are in need of a victory. Hopefully, it'll be your third consecutive. Hopefully, it will be Molly's winning game to break her losing.
Battle of the 3 and 4s.
That's right. It's a battle of the 3 and 4. So both of you desperately need a win here to stay competitive here. Although if one of you wins, you're really just kind of knocking one or the other off for not to win the conference per se. More likely than not, just getting one of the other playoff seeds. I think more than anything else. I think the top couple spots are going to Josh clearly, and then one of the other 5 and 2 teams. I think basically the leaders of the conferences right now, probably one of those 3 will take the top 2 spots. But anyways, I digress. Let's look at these teams. So you got Cam Newton going against Tampa Bay. She's got Drew Brees going against Chicago. You might think I would pick Drew Brees against Chicago. No. I'm actually going to go with Tampa Bay. I'm actually going to go with Cam Newton against Tampa Bay here. Cam Newton, after I dropped him, has gone on this massive tear, except for last week, and has just been putting up Cam Newton-like points. He's the 6th-ranked quarterback overall, and he's going against the 2nd-worst Tampa Bay defense. So I definitely think this is a Cam Newton week. I'm going to put a check mark in his thing. Hold on a second. I just realized you have no options, Noel. You are on a bye-week bonanza, so this is your starting lineup. Like bye week. So this is Noel's lineup, unless you make some trades or does some, not trades, but does something on the waiver wire. This is your roster. So Cam Newton back, Joe Mixon versus Molly's running back, Alvin Kamara. I like Joe Mixon. I really do. I think he's quite good, but I don't think he's better than Alvin Kamara. I think this is his week. I think he's got more upside and more potential. So I think, especially since he's running against kind of decent Chicago defense. Now, granted, Joe Mixon's running against Indy's 2nd-worst run defense, so I might end up eating those words, but I doubt it. I think this is Alvin Kamara. If I had to pick one of the 2, I'd pick him this week. Doug Baldwin versus Julio Jones. I think it'd be a fool not to pick Julio Jones, although Doug Baldwin technically is 1 rank higher than him, 17th to Julio Jones' 18th. Now, Julio has not been having a good year. He's been having a very un-Julio Jones-like year, and I think that goes along with the whole idea that this has just not been a wide receiver year at all. These wide receivers have been looking a lot more like tight ends this year than actual wide receivers. But of these 2, I think Julio Jones has the upside by a hair because he's going against a slightly worse defense. Even though Doug Baldwin's outperforming him so far, I like Julio Jones more just by a smidge. Jack Doyle versus Cameron Brate. Although O'Doyle rules, I think that Cameron Brate would be my pick. I think that he's going to have a decent week. He's going against a pretty tough against the tight end position Carolina defense, but so is Jack Doyle. He's actually going against a tougher defense at Cincinnati. Lamar Miller versus LeGarrette, smoke a blunt. I think Lamar Miller is the better choice here. I like Lamar Miller more. I think he runs with more aggression. He's just more physical, better athlete. LeGarrette Blount, watching him run last week was pathetic. He just kept running into walls of players. Just like, well, I give up, and they just fall over. So I don't think he has that sort of drive that he used to when he was back in New England or anywhere else. He's just not the same guy. So even though he's running against the worst San Francisco run defense, as soon as they start putting up points, I don't know. I just don't really think he's going to do well. So my money's on Lamar Miller. Devin Bunches of Funches versus Will Fuller 5. It's like Ben Folds 5. So Devin Funches is going against the worst Tampa Bay defense against wide receivers versus Will Fuller 5, and the 5 band going against Seattle's 8th. Will Fuller is the 46th ranked wide receiver. Now Molly's kind of in the same problem where she's got kind of a bye week bonanza here. She's got both of her defenses on bye, DeMarco Murray on bye. I imagine she's going to substitute in Danny Amendola for Will Fuller 5, simply because why wouldn't you? Will Fuller's been averaging 10 points. Danny Amendola's 13. He's also going against the worst defense. So I'm actually going to assume she's going to swap in Danny Amendola. And in that sense, I'm still going to putting my money with Devin Funches anyways. So I think Molly will throw in Danny Amendola unless he is going to be out. He is questionable at this point. It was a limited participant in practice today, so perhaps not. But I don't know. Why would you start a second-tier wide receiver at Houston when DeAndre Hopkins is kind of not doing that hot overall, relatively speaking, to other positions? He's the 4th-ranked wide receiver, but why not start a running back in the flex spot? Just for that reason that we've already talked about ad nauseum, that wide receivers are just not having a good year. She doesn't have a defense right now. I'm assuming she'll pick one up, so this is kind of a moot point, but I do like the Falcons going against the Jets. They're having an above-average year, but they're still the Jets, so I don't expect them to do that well. And then kickers. Despite the fact I've been picking Molly's players, I'm going to pick Noel to win. And I say that because I think there's more consistency and upside on Noel's team. There's more potential for explosion on Molly's team, but it just hasn't materialized yet. So I think based off of consistency and points, I think, Noel, this is your game to lose. I'd be surprised if Molly wins this one. You've been averaging over 100 points more than her. Not averaging, I should say. You've scored 100 points more than her throughout the 7 weeks. So I really do believe this is going to be, you're going to go 4-4. She's going to go 3-5. So let's go on to the last game, Charlie versus Ben.
And boy, is this one projected to be a fun one, where right now with Jeremy Maclin, who's actually not dead, he is actually playing this game and has 14 points, has Charlie with the projection right now of 133.3 to Ben's 134.1. So this one, as projected, could be the game of the week. So let's go to the matchups here. And it's Tyrod Taylor going against a very suspect Oakland defense. So that's favorable. And then it's Phillip Rivers, Mr. Marmalade, or for those of you who aren't aware, look up or Google sometime Phillip Rivers peppermint roll GIF or GIF, however you want to pronounce it, and enjoy. I think I'm going to go with Tyrod Taylor here because Phillip Rivers is Phillip Rivers. So 21 points is nothing to scoff at from just consistency point. But Tyrod Taylor, I think he's got some more weapons. Plus, he's going to run around a little bit more and get you some points. From there, one of those weapons is LaShawn McCoy, who I really like. However, Le'Veon Bell, every time, unless he's going against some insane defense, has to get the check mark. Jerry Maclin very well could have a better week than Mike Evans this week. So that one I think is kind of a toss-up. That's right, I'm doing a cop-out and toss-up. Yeah. Jared Cook against Buffalo. Austin Seferian-Jenkins against against Atlanta for Ben. I like Seferian-Jenkins because Atlanta's defense hasn't been great. Buffalo, I think, is better than we noticed because they're Buffalo. So I like check mark for Ben there. Frank Gore going against a dirty but decent Bengals defense versus Ben's Carlos Hyde going against Philadelphia's very good defense. But I think Carlos Hyde's much more explosive in that offense. Frank Gore has been losing touches to the likes of never heard of before. James White, I think, Charlie.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
What the hell? Sorry. Yes. I don't know why she chimed in there, but hello.
Hello, I'm Alexa. Derp.
I was like, did I say something like that? Oh, it was probably Austin Seferian-Jenkins. She's not doing anything. Okay. But so yeah. But as you said, Mike, Kelvin Benjamin going against the worst ranked Tampa Bay defense against the pass. I like James White because he will get PPR, but I think that one's again a toss-up. Defensively here, Texans going against Seattle's offense, which can be explosive, but they also can't block for shit. So who knows if the offense will do anything. Steelers defense is pretty good, and Matt Stafford, the highest paid player in the history of the NFL, loves to turn the ball over and is still kind of reeling from injury. So actually, I'm going to give the edge again to Ben for his defense. Prater, who is a solid fantasy kicker, going against Chris Boswell, who is not so much. I'm going to give it to Prater there. And I'm going to give this one to Ben, which is tough because this keeps happening to Charlie somehow, where You know, actually, I know why this is happening. He's got a bye week bonanza because he's got four players on his bench plus Aaron Rodgers on the IR. So he's got four players on the same team that are all on bye, sitting in his reserve spot. And Matt Forte, who is just no longer Matt Forte, is questionable. So, Ben, I'm going to give the nod here, even though the projection says it's going to be close as hell. But Charlie, you've been putting up a hell of a fight, even though 2-5, not nothing to shake a stick at, but you've just had a bad run of luck with a 3-game losing streak here. But yeah, Ben, I like you here getting kind of back into the mix of things. As we're Charlie, I think you and I will be battling it out for the last place in the Pacific Conference. As sad as this to say.
Well, yeah. Anyways, let's wrap it up there. Here's the poll for the week. It's a little early. It's only been 7 weeks. We still have a handful of games here. 5 games left before we hit the playoffs. But I'm curious, who do you think your favorite for Mile High Champion League is at this point? And I'd take these 6 teams based off of the 6 who, if the playoffs started today, they would be in the playoffs. So go ahead and vote there if you'd like. And that, folks, is our show. Noel, is there anything else you want to add for this week?
Just a little thing I like to say that is, go Broncos.
That's right. Go Broncos. Thank you, everyone.